So happy New Year. Looks like we're back with Data Fundamentals Unpacked. And
You bet.
I probably should have looked this up. We're back the second Tuesday of every month, right? This year, aren't we? Aren't we
Correct.
excited? And today we're whispering with Bill Shander. He's part of our data trio, but today's episode is dedicated to stakeholder whispering. And we're pretty excited about doing that. So, hey, everybody, I'm Robin Hunt. I'm out of Birmingham, Alabama. I'm a data professional and executive and entrepreneur and all the things, and a LinkedIn learning author, and happy to be here with two of my favorite people. Jenny, tell everybody about you.
Hey, Robin and Bill. I'm Jenny Von Quarter. I'm working typically out of Traverse City, Michigan. I have the hand to prove it, but right now I'm grateful that I'm actually not in the blizzard up there, and I'm working out of Mexico, which is nice. And I work in the world of data, but I think of myself more as a trainer, as a teacher, than I do as a data person necessarily, because my joy is helping talented folks do the next thing that they don't know how to do yet. And so a lot of that work is in data with tools like Power BI and Power Apps, but that's how I spend my time.
Love it.
Hey, Bill.
All right. Hey, folks. Excited as always to be here. My name is Bill Shander, and like Jenny, I think of myself more as an instructor these days, a teacher. I teach classes on LinkedIn Learning and workshops for clients around the world, et cetera, focusing on data storytelling and data visualization and related skills as well. But I also wrote a book this year called Stakeholder Whispering last year, not this year. It's barely, what is it right now? 2026 already. I guess I really wrote it 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, published last year. And I also did a course for LinkedIn on the book, on the topic there, which is what we're going to be talking about today. I hailed from Boston for many, many, many years, moved primarily to New Mexico, Nuevo Mexico, last year in 2025. But I also, like Ginny, am currently in Old Mexico. I'm in Baja, and I have not the Michigan hand to prove it, but the blistered hand to prove it, because we had a very, very wet, I guess the summer. Yeah, the summer season was incredibly wet here. More rain than they've seen in like 20 years. And the yard here was full of weeds, which I've been spending the last week clearing with a little pickaxe action. So I bought some gloves on the second day.
Wow.
You have to have gloves.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. And this is desert, so it's very strange. We were not expecting weeds. I thought I was done weeding for my entire life, having moved to two desert locations.
Yeah. Now you're weeding on a whole new level. That's awesome.
Exactly. Yeah.
Traded your lawnmower for a pickaxe.
Exactly.
That does not seem like a fair exchange. I'm just going to go ahead and tell you right now, I love my lawnmower. My dad keeps trying to get me to get on a zero turn. I'm like, I want to keep my legs and my arms right now. I don't feel like I can drive a zero turn yet, but I'm happy to not have to deal with a pickaxe.
Well, I have to say, I actually enjoyed it. And, because it's the desert, I think I'm good for another year at least.
Okay. Awesome.
Once a year, I can handle that.
Okay.
So I want to dive in a little bit about stakeholder whispering, and I'm fascinated, like, because we were with you, not like directly with you, but we were with you throughout the time that you were actually writing the book. And I remember when you first started, we were like, oh, there's this moment where you're going to just basically not enjoy anything in life until you're done with the book. But you didn't really have that experience. I never, like, a matter of fact, I remember you telling us that moment never came for you. So this book is, to me, then more than just a book. It's a labor of love. Like, you obviously had, like, just put a lot of passion into writing this book if you were still in love with it when you were done.
Yes. And for anyone out there who has written a book, yes, usually it is a painful, difficult process. Everybody told me that. They're going to say there's going to hit a point where you're just going to be like miserable. Okay. Yeah. So, for anybody who's written a book, it can be a very, very difficult, painful process. And I have to say that I never experienced that. I was very, very, very lucky. I recognize. And I think the reason why, I've been approached to write books before about data visualization, and there's a million of those, and I just really didn't want to write that. And then I had this idea to write this
Mm.
book, which is something that not enough people have written about, thought about, that I've experienced. And it's something that I think I realized as I was considering writing the book is like one of the most important skills anybody who is a knowledge worker of any kind really needs to develop. And so I had a lot of fun gathering research and stories about the topic. And then the writing was just a joy. It honestly was a joy. And even though I edited the book multiple times, I went through each chapter, multiple edit rounds.
Yep.
I had fun with it. I was tweaking sentences and retelling stories in new ways, and I really did just enjoy the entire experience to
That's
the point where
wonderful.
now I was talking to my wife the other day saying, what am I going to do next? And maybe I'll
Mm.
be a writer. I don't know. We'll see.
Oh, I kind of
Cool.
like that. You really do
Yeah.
write a lot already, though, don't you?
I do. I write, but when I write for my courses, like for LinkedIn, I love teaching and I love writing the content, creating the curriculum, etc. But a little bit more of a new focus, a creative, outlet.
Okay.
It
Okay.
was just different, and so having something new and different was just so fun
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
refreshing.
Yeah.
I think print affords you a deeper dive.
Mm-hmm.
Like when you're working in print as opposed to a video, right? You do have the ability to expand in a way that in a video, you'd think somebody would go, I'm done with this, right? But in a book,
Yeah,
somebody just skips ahead if they don't want that part. So I
Yeah.
think there's
it's
a
Yeah.
true.
limitation to lushness, right?
Yeah.
Um, that I always appreciated anyway. So
Yeah, no, it's definitely true. And I am a concise person. I'm not much of a talker. And I also express on paper relatively concisely. So yes, rather than, a 2-minute video, which is like barely any words, but I still didn't do like 40-page chapters. They're still very tight and concise. And that's something I want to try to even go a little bit deeper the next time I write something, because I think there is the opportunity to do that.
That's great. You should please get all your wonderful thoughts and wisdom out. I mean, even if it's just for the idea of, I sometimes want to argue with you about it
That's the fun part.
because I
Sure.
because I care very deeply about the stuff you talk about, and for years I've I actually was leveraging y'all's content before I actually even knew you in person, right? Like, if you were in my boot camps, everybody knew who Jenny Vine Quarter and Bill Shander were, which is no question, and Oz as well, and Helen. Like, you guys were all part of the curriculum because why not? You're teaching amazing things. So I just wanted to spend just a little bit of time talking a little bit about the stakeholder whisperer, but also talking about how people can learn from you all the time in real time, because this topic is really important to me too, now that I've discovered it. So as a leader, like, I have to educate myself. I am responsible for me getting educated. And so I thought I would spend just a couple of minutes saying, how did I educate myself about stakeholder whispering before I read the book? I've read a chapter or two of the book. I'm looking forward to totally diving into the book, but I've realized something about myself. I like to kind of explore a little bit and kind of get an idea. And I thought, I can't be the only person like that. So first of all, I went to your activity page on LinkedIn, right? Then we can all go to your profile and look at your activity page, and it says your first featured post is stakeholder whispering, uncover what people need before doing what they ask, is the post up there. And I won't read all of it, but there's talk about noise and right questions. And I love this statement: avoid being an order taker and drive real impact by getting beyond half-baked stakeholder requests. And then I was immediately offended because I'm like, I'm not giving half-baked requests. I want to come back to the realization that I am a stakeholder for some people, but at the same time, those same people, they are my stakeholders. So I hope you'll kick us off with the definition of who all stakeholders are. Okay, hold on, let me keep going. again, because it's like, how do you learn? So, Bill, you also have lesson and listen that gets released pretty regularly. And I believe that's where I fell in love with this series with Jeremy Singer Vine was on that.
Yeah.
I just feel like I've watched a lot of them. He holds the title for the greatest. He was what I would call an undercover analyst. He had no idea he was really a data analytics professional. He was a journalist, and then all of a sudden now look what his contributions to the world are. So it wasn't everything in your lesson and listen series that made me a super fan, but Jeremy Singer Vine did. So there's a little something there for everybody.
And by
So
the way,
I
for those who
highly
don't
encourage that.
know, Jeremy Singer Vine is the creator of Data is Plural, which I don't know if
Yes.
he's still doing now. I think it may be sort of on a pause, but like it's a collection of interesting data sets. So anybody who does data work and wants to sort of go play with some interesting data, Data is Plural. Like go there. He has like
Yes.
so many interesting data sets to play around with.
Just geeked out forever. And there's a lot and interesting data sets, right? Like they're not like here's a supply chain data set, it's like here's all the train history from the 1800s type data. So
Exactly.
I loved him. So I
Very
encourage
diverse.
that. Very diverse. But he has a journalist background. So I just thought that was really I just loved him. But I guess my point is like you also have Stakeholder on here. So I was really happy because I already knew that was a good series. So well, let me kind of dabble a little bit and watch Stakeholder Whispering on the LinkedIn Learning platform. So I hope everybody will watch that after this. But then here's the next one that you have that, again, I hope we can come back later this year in Data Fundamentals Unpacked. And I know Jenny might have some feedback on this one too. I hope we can watch it. Is building KPIs for data-driven strategy is one of your courses. So you do techniques, you talk about visualization, and now you're teaching us how to communicate as stakeholders. And I just thought I would point out, like, you do this in real time all the time. Like anybody can go to your activity feed and begin to learn from you immediately as you're putting stuff out, right? Is that because your fans, friends, and followers are stakeholders?
Definitely.
Okay.
No question that, essentially everybody's a stakeholder.
Okay.
If we look at the definition, you asked for the definition earlier of stakeholder. There was a University of Virginia professor named R. Edward Freeman who invented the entire idea of stakeholder management back in the 80s. And he defines a stakeholder as anybody who can affect or is affected by whatever you're doing. So anybody who can affect what I'm doing, well, that is my boss, right? The boss can tell me what to do it differently, et cetera. It's investors in my company. There's all kinds of people who are clearly can affect what I'm doing. And anyone affected by what I'm doing, yeah, like it is my audience, my learners. It is my my boss, once again, by the way, is also affected by what I do. It's the customers of my company. It's, the list goes on and on and on and on and on. And, it's also things like, my friends, my spouse, like it's all these, they're all stakeholders. Now, where are they on the list in terms of when I'm creating a data dashboard for my company? These people are probably more important today than these people. But yeah, the list of stakeholders is literally endless. And yes, your employees are your stakeholders when you're talking to them because they are affected by and can affect what you're working on. And of course, it goes the other way around also.
Yeah. And I am excited. I'm going to dig deeper into it. I think one of the reasons why maybe you were in love with it all the way through is because it's not just a technique. It's a way to think. It's a mindset.
Yes.
Whereas so often we're like, this label needs to be bigger so it's readable. Hey, don't use pie charts because those are deceptive. Now you're talking about, hey, this is a way you can operate within your culture. Before we even started, I told you need an implementation guide.
Yeah.
You can just make it for me. I love the idea of, hey, let's all just decide we don't know, and let's all get together and watch this stakeholder whispering, and let's have a conversation about how we're going to be stakeholders in our own company, and everybody be involved in the conversation from me to the interns. Like,
Yeah.
I just think it could be a good way for us to at least shore up some of our communication techniques as if we just accept everybody's a stakeholder.
Yeah, I mean, if you look through almost all of my courses on LinkedIn, like literally almost every single one of them, with very few exceptions, they are thinking courses. When
Mhm,
I teach data visualization, I'm not teaching you how to make a chart in Excel. I'm
mhm,
teaching you how to think about making charts. And
mhm.
that's what I love to do. I love to, it is always about the thinking, changing your mindset, changing your perspective. Because once you do that, then doing whatever you're doing in tools, the techniques, et cetera, is actually pretty straightforward. Now, in this book, I do teach a few techniques in the course also, but it's the most important thing is to shift your mindset for sure.
I definitely think it's the mindset shift, and it may be a little bit hard for if you're a new leader coming up, it's like this stakeholder whispering is amazing to start your leadership journey. But if you're an existing leader and you've been a leader for a long time, like some of it is perplexing when you read it or see it or hear it. You're like, wait, what? Wait, you want them to do what? And
Yeah.
then it's like, so one question I have for you, because I have a million, but like this very first question is there any companies in which this idea of stakeholder whispering does not apply?
No.
Okay.
So the short answer is 100% no.
Okay.
There's no company where this doesn't apply. There's no organization where this doesn't apply, as though like it would never apply. Are there
Okay.
certain situations where it doesn't apply? Of course,
Okay.
the simplest thing is that, it's partially about scale.
Okay.
You're a giant corporation and you're going to implement you decide you need an ERP system, enormous technical project that usually take years and millions of dollars.
Mhm.
I would hope that the moment somebody said we need an ERP system, your employees don't go running out and purchase the first one they come across on the internet and then
Oh,
start
yeah.
implementing it. There has to be stakeholder conversation to figure out what do you really need. And what do we call that in the tech world? We call that requirements gathering, right?
Okay.
Or what's the other term for that? Needs assessment.
Okay.
And but requirements gathering and needs assessment aren't enough, because requirements gathering usually takes the form of, okay, you want an ERP system? Tell me what you want in your ERP system. And so you ask questions like that. But the fact is, well, why do we even need an ERP system first? What about the ERP system are we looking for? What problems are we trying to solve, et cetera, times a million questions.
Okay. Yeah.
And then, yeah, let's evaluate the ERPs we go consider, also with a million questions, et cetera. So scale, right? A giant project that's going to take years and millions of dollars and untold man hours requires deeper conversations. Now, to your point, is there a company where this doesn't apply? No, but are there situations where it doesn't apply? Yes. The boss says, can you go get me a cup of coffee? I'm thirsty and I have a meeting in 5 minutes. You should probably just go get a cup of coffee if
Okay.
that's
Yeah.
your role.
Yeah.
There's no stakeholder whispering required there.
Okay.
Unless you don't know your boss yet, in which case you might want to ask, oh, do you take cream or sugar, or do you like
Mm.
Splenda?
Mhm.
Even then, maybe a little bit, but probably by the second time you've gotten them coffee, or certainly by the third time, you should probably stop asking them questions. Otherwise, they're going to want to, do horrible things.
Yeah.
So, long story short, there is no company or organization where this isn't needed, but there are certainly circumstances where it's not.
Okay. Okay. Welcome back, Jenny. We lost you just briefly, but when you pop back, I think Bill is now in the middle. He said he's now bookended by us while we are going to squeeze out all this stakeholder knowledge.
Want me to leave and come back again?
No. We were just talking about having those large scale projects where you're implementing something huge, and there's these big conversations that have to go around that. I think I want you to go down a little bit smaller though, because not everybody gets involved on ERP implementations or large tech projects, right?
Yeah.
Give us another like real world example of stakeholder whispering where the stakes are a little less high, but still
Sure.
important.
Well, I'm going to throw it back at you, Robin.
Okay.
Give me an example of something that Think Data Solutions does on a regular basis. You teach, you have this workforce training program, right?
Yeah, that's right.
And so, you have a client, that you're working with, whether it's the state of Alabama or a corporate client,
That's right.
and maybe you tell me if I'm wrong, but
Okay.
maybe you do some reporting for them about, like a training assessment of skills and then a post
Yeah.
training assessment of how they've done. Okay.
Yeah.
And so you might go to your employees and say, hey, let's get that report ready for these guys to show them how the program went.
Yeah.
Now, as soon as you say that sentence, should they go running off and start making a report? Probably they need to ask you questions like, oh, well, what were they hoping would accomplish? What skills were we meant to develop? What is a success metric for how we did training these people, et cetera? And again, like,
Yeah.
you may come to that conversation and lay out those details because you're a good stakeholder.
Yeah.
But you may not, or you may forget one, or they may be thinking about one. I was in this program 2 years ago, and there was one thing that wasn't in the survey. And hey, what do you think about blah 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 blah? It doesn't have to be a 3 hour long conversation. It might be just one little nugget of wisdom that they add to that process. That's stakeholder whispering.
I love that. I tell everybody I can't be the only person who can contribute to these thoughts here. Like, I'm not the only person who has thoughts here. And so
Yeah.
I crave for them to, like, I'm actually happy for them to mess up things because it gives us an opportunity to talk about it and figure out, like, where did we go wrong on that?
Yeah.
Um,
And
but
that's the thing. Like the book is slightly snarky. Stakeholders don't know what they need, so let's help them figure it out.
yeah,
Uh, and that's often true, by the way, because all
yeah,
of us, we're humans. We all don't know what we need at all
yeah,
times.
yeah,
But it is definitely it's about having a culture of collaboration and creative input.
yeah,
That's really the goal.
yeah,
Because yes, you need help. You do.
yeah,
We all do.
yeah. Well, I don't always know the right answer. Like, and what I think is very clear, and this happened to me throughout my whole career, right? I think I'm very clear on where I want to be. And am I communicating that out? Am I making too much assumption? But this is something I think for teams to really implement it as a cultural statement for their coming, like, we're going to care about stakeholders. We all have to agree we maybe have been doing it all wrong this whole time, and now it's time for a reset because the
Yeah.
stakeholders, the executives, the leaders, the people driving the decisions, they have to be in an agreement that they're going to listen to their stakeholders so that we can kind of come together in this. Because I just feel like if you could just really get this together, you could increase your product productivity. You could improve your internal communications. Maybe something that I'm saying that seems vague, maybe isn't vague after we culturally decide. Like, I don't know, my brain is all blown up about it, just trying to figure out, like, how do I take this as a cultural initiative at my company to say, "Hey, I'm your stakeholder, you're my stakeholder. Let's figure out how to, like, serve each other better." But
Yeah.
now I don't think every leadership role necessarily has that attitude
Mm.
towards their people.
Definitely not.
So when you don't have that attitude of let's all go in this together, how do the people that are learning from you today to be better stakeholder whisperers, how do they thrive in that environment where maybe the leadership is not really accepting that they're not a very good stakeholder?
Yeah, that's one of the first questions I always get whenever I talk about stakeholder whispering. And it's a really important one because, yeah, not everybody works in a company that values this. The short answer, and it's a somewhat snarky answer, but it's also honestly true, is that if you work in a culture where your voice isn't valued and you can't really contribute, find a new stakeholder, find a new boss. Like it's probably
Mhm.
you're going to do better somewhere else if you want to contribute in that way.
Mhm.
Now, that being said, it takes time for a culture to develop.
Mhm.
And your company may be a very hierarchical company. So, for instance, should I name names? They were never my client, but I always heard rumors that it was a very difficult place to work. That there was this culture of just do what you're told, shut up, leave me alone, get it done.
Mm.
And my understanding is that that sort of percolated down from the very top of the organization. I don't know if it's true, but this is what I heard. In an organization like that, if your boss tells you to do something and you're clearly given the signals, you know, uh, very clearly or somewhat clearly that you just shut up and do it. At a minimum, you can still do some stakeholder whispering. And the tiniest thing you can do is, okay, boss, I heard you just say you want me to do that, the post workshop, the report on that training thing that we did. Can you give me tell me just one thing, how are we going to know we've done it well? How are we going to measure success? Even that one question will give you some information, and they're going to hear it as a good question. Like, oh, okay, good. Now I can hold you to something, right? It's not going to make them defensive. It's an accountability thing you're asking for.
Mm-hmm.
They'll give you more information and it'll help you do a better job. That's stakeholder whispering, even in a difficult environment like that.
Okay.
And so, yeah, are you going to be able to have an hour-long conversation, kumbaya, back and forth, create a brainstorming? No, but that's a step. And then maybe the next
how many
time,
people are like, I laugh because like there was a part of it that I read and I thought, Bill, seriously, Bill, I'm a biller.
Come on, man.
Like we bill our customers. Like I can't get to work. It's like
that's the ideal state that I described. And it is kumbaya.
Right.
But yes, there are steps in between.
Like, why not want to achieve it? Like I say that and come on, Bill, but at the same time, I'm like, come on, Robin.
Yeah.
You can do this.
Let me tell you.
You can do this.
I've had tough clients. I've been doing this for 30 years. I've had some clients who had no interest in what I had to say, or, really just shut up and do it, Bill. But the best clients that I had, and over the years, as my hair got grayer and thinner, more and more, those are the only clients I had were the ones who said, man, we're hiring this guy because of these valuable conversations that he helps us have.
Yeah.
Like that's my entire client base is made up of people like that now. Lucky me. But I had to fight my way to get there. And you have these little snippets of conversations and you gain trust. And then next time it's this long, and next time it's this and this. And before you know it, by the way, you have your boss's job maybe. Now, don't tell your boss now. The bosses don't want to hear that. But you know what I mean? Because that's where the best work is going to get done.
Well, that's where the human value is.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
Right? I mean, that's exactly where it is.
Mm-hmm.
It's it's not in the mechanics of doing something specific that we could jump online and find 20 people to create the application, to have the conversations about the application in a knowledgeable way. That's what's important. I also want to insert another concept here that I learned, I think, the hard way, which is leadership by example always works. Yeah. And so if you're being led by people who are bad examples, it's time to start looking for somewhere else to be. And for me, the hardest thing has always been when there's been a transition and I haven't known right away. Like I had one client for a long time that the CEO was, I think, fabulous. Although I think I met him once. Okay. And he's in the same building I'm in, but there was something about working there. And when they changed CEOs, it took very little time for other people to start moving. I'm thinking, where are they all going? And it's because they knew. And so the idea of that, the kind of example that the new guy set, not a good example.
Yeah.
And at some level, it always works.
It's very, very true.
Yeah.
Culture. This is about culture. Culture will play a role in how this works. And to your point, Ginny, that's a human differentiator. I mean, in the age of AI, what can humans do that AI can't do? I mean, stakeholder whispering is a really important part of it. Asking unexpected follow-up questions and really having that context, all that stuff is really key.
And you just add another item to the list. They can build culture. Humans build culture. Humans build community, right? Humans build accountability. There's a whole list of things that AI is not going to do for us. Yeah. And those are the places where it's important to have human connection, right? To have the conversations. And to ask the daring things sometimes, right?
Yeah. What's funny?
There's
so
got
Robin,
to
you
be
mentioned
a middle. I'm sorry. I just have to say that they're like I'm not saying that we're being idealist at all, but there has to be some middle ground here, right? Like you can't. Maybe your boss is a jerk, but your other stakeholders, which are family, require you to have to deal with that until like you can't just always just shift and pivot into a whole new role, and the grass is not always greener either. So is there a middle where you are kind of here, but you want to do your absolute best. You want to bring your best foot forward. You being diligent about trying to be a better stakeholder whisperer, to me, is you bringing your best foot forward when you can't pivot out and go somewhere else. So is there a middle where you can be an excellent stakeholder? It just may be your later boss who recognizes it.
Yeah, I mean, part of that is like I just said, like, you can ask to this week, I'm going to try get that one question in: how are we going to measure success? Even with your jerk of a boss, that's going to work.
Okay.
And you'll gain trust even with that person and maybe have slightly more involved conversations to do better work. And one of the most important aspects of stakeholder whispering, and we alluded to it earlier, is what's a stakeholder, how we define it, et cetera, is recognizing that there's always multiple stakeholders. Your boss may be the one who asked you to do X, and they're your stakeholder in that moment for sure. But guess what? Your boss's boss, right? Their stakeholder is maybe also your stakeholder. Probably they are. And by the way, maybe not even just the bosses in the hierarchy, the chain, it might be the client, right? So, like in your company, Robin, you have clients. And so when Robin tells your employees, hey, do X, you're kind of a stakeholder,
Yeah.
you've asked for it, but really the client may be the primary stakeholder. And so even if you have a jerk of a boss, they're difficult. But if you say, hey, you know what? Last week in the meeting with the client, they said this. I think maybe should we include that in there? And if they didn't hear it, they weren't in the room, they're gonna be like, yeah. Thanks for pointing that out. Or maybe they're not gonna say thanks because they're a jerk, but at least subconsciously they're gonna say, thank goodness we included that because the client asked for it. The
Yeah.
client is the key stakeholder. And so even with a difficult boss, you can sort of start to get them. One of the key things of stakeholder whispering is to get your stakeholders to help also recognize who the true stakeholders are, which may be somebody completely else.
Yeah. Yeah. That's interesting. That's good too. It's
Or to know
workable.
who those people are. I remember way back in my career, I was asked to do something by my boss, like on her way out the door. She's, here's this report that we're going to need on Monday morning for the superintendent. I was in education at the time. And she's like, see what you can do with this, on her way out the door. And I look at this and I go, is that all they want? So, so I create this report and drop it on my boss's desk. And when I come in Monday, because I work later hours than everybody else. I come in like at 11 a.m. and I work till 9 o'clock at night. I come in and like my boss is like in my office, shuts the door and goes, how did you know how to do that? Like it's that, and it's not, I have a new job that I didn't have before, right?
Yeah.
But the imagination of see what you can do with this. And it's like, I can do this with this. It's like the superintendent loved this. Can we do this every month? And it's like, well, we can't, but I can.
Yeah.
So let's have a conversation. Does it need to be we? Do you want me to do this?
Yeah.
But sometimes that other stakeholder gets revealed because their needs suddenly got met, maybe in a way they didn't even understand. Because I'm sure if the superintendent had known what they could have in a report, they would have told my boss, this should be in the report. But it's like, it made sense. We have the data. Why aren't we providing this kind of information back? Right.
And that's key, right? Like, so, our stakeholders don't know what they need. We can help them figure it out. Implies they're clueless. And that's not the point. Sometimes they literally don't know that this stuff exists. They don't know that we have the technology to make this out of it, et cetera. And yeah, the magic is that you as the worker are able to help them understand the capabilities sometimes. And so whether it's because of the technical issues or the data, the type of data you have, or et cetera, you can bubble up magic that they're literally not even aware of.
I think also too, I want to just throw, again, I'm not trying to be argumentative at all here. But
it's okay.
No, I'm just thinking like, okay, so we've got I'll pick on non-technical. So you got non-technical leaders and they have technical staff. Stakeholder challenges there, right? Like, you got a non-technical leader, technical staff. There's definitely gonna be some maybe that's a challenging situation. Let me get this thought out here. I think sometimes though, you may have like a really you're not realizing that that stakeholder you're serving needs you in that situation, listening on their behalf, because that's why you're in there. And to me, that is serious trust. And so when you come back and it's like, well, why didn't you know that? Well, how could I possibly know that? You were there to know that. So there's like that trust has to go both ways. You talk about building trust with your stakeholder.
Yeah.
What if your stakeholder already trusts you?
Yeah. Then
Are the limits that are now, is the expectation higher for stakeholdering?
That's a good question. Is the expectation higher? Yeah, probably. I think so. The fact is, and one of the first chapters in the book that I talk about is that, you belong there, junior employee, first
Yes.
day on the job. You were hired to do what you do. So you deserve the trust from today. Now, you're not going to become the CEO or whatever, but like, you deserve to be where you are. So therefore you have a right and a responsibility to do this thing where you help your stakeholders figure out what they need. So yes, if there's already trust there from your stakeholder with you, then lucky you. Then you have the ability to, yes, be in that room, listen carefully to the client or whoever it is you're dealing with it, and be responsible and accountable and help the company do better work. No question. And that two-way trusting is really key, because if you have the trust of your stakeholder, then they're going to give you the time to have these longer conversations. But that's also a two-way street. I used to have employees. I don't anymore. I'm not a great people manager. I was terrible at delegating all kinds of things. But one of the things that used to drive me crazy was, my employees, like I would ask them to do stuff, and sometimes I was clueless, just like any other stakeholder. And other times, like I knew exactly what I needed. And, I didn't value, I'll just say, getting 800 questions about it, because I just didn't have the time. I was so pulled in too many directions. It used to drive me crazy. And I appreciated it because I knew they wanted to do good work, but it was also hard as a manager to constantly have, being overwhelmed with questions. But that's where the trust part comes in too. It's like, I trust you to do this the way you need to do it. Hopefully I've articulated clearly. If not, please do, let me know. But also read the email when I send you the email with the instructions, etc. So it's a balancing act. It's a gray area. There's no like, oh, every request deserves an hour-long conversation. But the trust is a two-way street for sure. I trust you to do what you're going to do. You trust me that I'm going to be good to work with you on this and help you figure it out, vice versa. But we have to trust each other, and also trust yourself, by the way. Like, okay, I think I do know what I need to do here. And I think it is the right thing. I think I was in the meeting with the client. This is what they need. I think we're good. And maybe I can do a quick experiment and to sort of prove it out. And then if it turns out I'm wrong, then we'll fix it later. So, it's all gray area, like life.
For me, one of the crazy making things
which makes it hard when it is so gray,
is if I would ask somebody to do something or tell somebody this needs to be done, and they'd never done it before, and they had no clue what I wanted, and they never said that.
Exactly. And they never asked the question, right?
Ginny, I've never done this. Do you have something in mind? And sometimes the answer to that is no, you get the first swing at this, give it a shot. But a lot of times the answer is, yeah, I'm going to send you the folder, right? The link to the folder with the last 20 times this has been done, and maybe a link to a course if that would be helpful for you, right?
Yeah.
But the idea that, because I think that there is I think that there are cultures that don't encourage people to ask questions.
Ah, okay.
Definitely.
I've been in those cultures that, you shouldn't be asking questions. And there's a lot of ways to tell people that. You can have all kinds of stuff that's your intentional curriculum about how open we are and how trusting we are. But if, the last 3 times somebody asked a question, they, got yelled at or got taken off a team, that's the unintentional curriculum, right? Where we're teaching exactly what happens to people who ask questions in our company. And so I've been in those places, but when you get people who've been in those places, they're question hesitant. They don't want to whisper. They want to crawl under a desk.
That's true.
And go spend huge amounts sometimes of their own time invested in trying to do something that they have no idea what you want, but they can't do that.
Yeah.
So the trust that you build pays off, not just with the whispering, but with somebody's ability to raise their hand and say, I really need help. I need help too, right?
Yeah. And that brings up another issue too, right? Like in some companies, maybe there's a culture where you're allowed to ask questions, but it's always that guy who asks all the questions in the meeting, right? Like they suck all the air out of the room. So even though you would feel comfortable asking a question, you just don't have room to ask a question.
Right.
And so you never know what you should be doing truly. Or you have to like ask for more time from somebody to go into like a private one-on-one to get your time to ask your questions. And that's partially a cultural thing. It's also like the nature of group meetings. There's so many things going on there, but that's a whole nother challenge, which, we don't have to get into today, but, brainstorming sessions, group meetings, whispering, en masse, as I call it, is a whole challenge.
And I think that's the nature of poorly conducted meetings. I just want to say that I'm a meeting wizard. I'll just say that. People don't leave meetings with me without an opportunity to ask a question, regardless of who they are. So part of that is, creating a culture where folks can say, you've had your 27 questions, Bill, and we're going to see if anyone else in the room has a question before we leave, right?
Or we let Bill close us out with all the questions he's going to ask.
Right. Yeah. Or whatever it is, because there are people for whom questions is their way of having a dialogue.
Yeah.
Right. That's their conversation space is questions. And I always meet them at conferences because they're the person who's asked 12 questions while I was standing in line behind them. But that's how I only get them for a day. When you get them every day in your workplace, it's a special day, right? So, meeting leadership's a good thing too.
Yeah.
Yeah. So true. There's actually also a technique that came out of research, I try to tell stories in the book. Some of them are personal stories. Some of them are, obviously work related, whatever. I told a very personal, embarrassing story at the beginning of the Whispering en Masse chapter, which, I won't go into here, but you should, if you read the book, you'll get a laugh out of it. Because one research study found that if you tell an embarrassing story at the beginning of a brainstorm session, the group will have better and more ideas.
It opens them up.
Huh.
Yeah. Yeah. Puts them at ease. Yeah. And so, read that chapter next, Robin, if you haven't read it yet.
Yeah, it's like Bill made a fool of himself for all of us, so we can be a little foolish here too.
We can do it too.
Exactly.
You can do it too.
That's right.
Yeah, it's fascinating to me, all of the different, when you think about stakeholder whispering and you read the things that you're talking about and you're hearing them, you just have to keep coming back to the definition that everybody's a stakeholder somehow. I think really if you're going to implement it and you're going to try to do it, the very first part of that is understanding that everybody is a stakeholder.
Yeah.
And then the second part of that is every human is flawed.
100%.
Right. And then there's also, you mentioned different methods and you talk about the way our brains work. In the LinkedIn learning course, you're talking right up front about our subconscious and the way that we're addressing things. Talk a little bit about the subconscious of a stakeholder or when we're a key decision maker. What are we doing?
Yeah. I mean, the basic idea, it comes from decades and decades of psychological research, summed up best by Daniel Kahneman in his book, Thinking Fast and Slow.
Mm-hmm.
And the basic idea is that humans think in two primary systems. The first is system one, they call it, but I call it fast thinking because that's what it is our fast, instinctive, automated response. Duck, you duck as soon as someone yells duck, right?
I did it. Really as soon as you said duck, I actually ducked down just then.
Perfect. You can't help it because we're good at that. We're really good at fast thinking.
Yeah.
The survivors are.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Skill, right?
Thank you for that.
Exactly.
Yes.
This is literally the evolutionary imperative. Now, at work, it's not so much about ducking because the ball is flying by, right? It's about different things. And so we have to use the second system, which is slow thinking. That's where we are reasoning, right? Okay. Using logical, analytical approach to things, trying to really think things through, right? Slowly. And it turns out that we suck at that, okay? We're not good at slow thinking. We think we are. Like, we put a man on the moon, we must be awesome at it. No, we're not. Now, we sort of get by sometimes, but for the most part, as Kahneman explains, our slow thinking is lazy, is one example. And so the example in that, when he says that it's lazy, he means that like when you're asking or you're asked a really difficult question, what you'll do is you'll substitute an easier question and answer that instead. So the example is, hey, are you happy? And the lazy, easy answer is, how do I feel right now? Right now, I'm kind of depressed.
I
I
love
guess
that.
I guess I'm not happy. But are you happy generally? You're not very good. You can't figure that out. So to the question, how does that show up in work? Well, our automated, slow, fast thinking, subconscious response is always driving the bus. So I have data, make a dashboard. I have data, make a dashboard. I have data, make a dashboard. So like we immediately, I have data, people need to use it to make decisions in meetings. Let's make them a dashboard. You know what? Dashboards are not always the answer. For that meeting, you may
They're
need one
rarely the
number.
answer.
Yeah. And so, the automated response does not serve us in a work environment. Now, sometimes it does. Like sometimes we do need a dashboard. Okay, so the automated response will be wrong. And like, even a broken clock is wrong, is right twice a day, right?
Yeah.
But so it's our automated response is constantly driving what we do. We always do it this way, so therefore we're going to just do it that way. But we need to slow things down, even though we're not good at it. We need to do our best to try to do some reasoning and really think through and question everything.
I have a time example for this because I really love this whole topic, right? And I think one thing that I mean, it's so like we call it squirrels, and I think there's a movie about this, maybe Up. I can't remember. There was a movie where it's the squirrel and everybody's paying attention to the squirrel, and they've completely lost focus of everything. So, like, where you can see it happen to you at work, that fast, slow thinking comes into play. Like somebody sends you an email and it's like, hey, we need this. Like I have no choice but to send that in real time because that's when I received it. My stakeholder sent it to me. I'm sending it to you. But that slow thinking is good because I'm like, okay, we should use this in our time practices because some people will go squirrel and they'll pull themselves completely off their task.
Yeah.
To go chase that when really that could have waited. Like I have to send it to you right now, but it really could have waited to the end of the day when you weren't stuck in something that you were currently working on. What are you thinking, Jenny?
Yeah.
When you say you have to send it to me right now, so I'm working for you, client sends you something, Robin,
Yeah.
and you're making it seem like you have to immediately forward that to me. Is that because you have a policy about response time in your organization, or
Depends on the customer.
depends on, so we might have a service agreement with the customer about how quickly we'll do something.
Yeah.
Well, I would want it feels to me like that's part of the problem right there is if we say we're going to respond to everything we receive within 2 hours, you're always going to get my knee-jerk response.
Right.
I don't
That's
have
what I'm saying. It's a time thing. Like I'm looking at how I take that fast, slow thought and then direct my team with, hey, I'm not expecting you to pull yourself off task because I'm sending it to you right now.
So,
Yeah.
So can I meet the service level agreement by sending something back to the client that says, we received this. We actually believe that some deliberative time about this would benefit the work. And therefore you will hear back from me again within 48 hours.
Yeah.
And that way we can meet that service level agreement. But you're right, because I've been in that place too. It's like, here's the thing, somebody needs to do it. And we're just, you and I become the pipeline then.
Yeah.
And we're part of the problem too then.
Oh, I definitely know I'm part of the problem. Right? Like I go, all right, I need to get it out of my box.
You're right.
Got to get out of there now. Got to get it to the team. Got to get it to the team, right? Because like, again, part of me serving them is making sure we all have work and that the people are doing what we're supposed to be doing and that we're having all that response back and forth. So yeah, I mean, Jenny, I've even gotten down to the point now where I'm like, we're only doing paperwork on Fridays. We can receive it all week long. We can capture it all week long. We're executing on Fridays because otherwise I've got a person doing paperwork literally on demand all day long. And so the company has no gauge of how much paperwork are we really doing. Do
Right.
we really
'Cause
need
the
to be
answer
doing
is
paperwork all
constant.
day long? Like, I'm stakeholder whispering to myself about the processes in place, right? Yeah.
And you just asked the question, do we really need to blah, 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 blah? So that's the next step in stakeholder whispering. Step number one is to realize that fast thinking, subconscious thinking is always driving the bus. So
Okay.
what do we do about it? The next logical thing is we need to engage what I call our useful paranoia, which
Mhm.
is another way of saying critical thinking.
Mhm.
At every moment, just ask that question. Do we really need to do this? Like the email comes in, you know what? This one is pretty straightforward. This is an emergency. This goes straight to the team, obviously. This next one, yeah, maybe like Jeannie just said, this could use some more deliberative thinking. Can I take 30 seconds and think about that? And I still need it out of my inbox because my email is like going to drown me. But can I turn it into a meeting invite with the client instead? Can I turn it into some other task? But it's useful paranoia. It's a
Mhm.
little bit of like, this can't be right. And always ask yourself, is this really true? And if not, then you can move to the next step of figuring out what to do about it.
Well, that's
Mhm.
what I'm trying to do, and I like the idea of using stakeholder whispering as kind of like a guardrail here. Like, when we're
Yeah.
looking at our processes and we're talking about those communications, it kinda gives me a framework, a guardrail, and then also easy to communicate to my team, like, you don't have to wonder what I'm thinking.
Yeah.
We're all watching the same thing. We're all thinking what Bill's thinking until we formulate as a team what Think Data thinks or XYZ thinks, right? Like, again, trying to figure out, like, there's so many different ways to apply this knowledge. And in my mind, it's like, if I'm requesting a task in my soul, time is allotted to it.
Mhm.
Okay. I can't get past that.
Right.
It's,
Yeah.
it's got a timer on it. So, how do I whisper well so I'm getting most use of my time, the best use of my time? And then how do I look at this from a policy standpoint, like only doing paperwork on Fridays? Hey, maybe you don't have to go jump immediately on that calendar appointment. Maybe you can look at that at the end of the day where you can kind of focus on it. And then maybe then my stakeholders that look at me as a stakeholder can come back to me with better information because I've given them the pass to say, you don't have to immediately bird dog that unless it's high priority. You're not going to fail me if you schedule it later in the day or if we have this question session later. I don't know.
It,
And that's where
it,
the trust thing comes in, right? You trust your employees,
Mhm.
they trust you, and you're going
Mhm.
to pass it to them and say, if you need something more from me, if there's a way to not go crazy about this right now, then please do, and let's work on it together. Let's figure it out together if you need me to, or please run with it and make whatever needs to happen happen.
we're talking about building and sustaining a culture of critical thinking.
Mhm. Yeah.
100%.
I mean, that's what this is. I used to have a client many years ago, a construction company, well known, not huge, not even statewide, but a well respected company, and they asked me to do some Linux work for them. And the first time I showed up, I had a meeting, I want to say at 11 o'clock in the morning. Maybe it was the second time, because the first time it was at a certain time. I go in, I meet with them, they tell me what they want. Believe me, they had, I mean, Linux, they actually had to hire an outsider, that would be me, because they wanted to update, change to WordPerfect. And this was not a no-brainer at all. Okay.
Mhm.
So I go in, I meet with them the first time, and then I'm going to come back a couple of days later. I come back like for an 11 o'clock something, but I'm there at 10:30. And I, know where I'm going. And I walk in and the door's shut. The person who I'm, have this relationship with that I'm doing the work for. And I knock on the door, and somebody has followed me out of the lobby and goes and takes me back to the lobby. This company has a policy that between 10 and 11 o'clock every morning, everybody has silent time. Phones don't ring.
Hmm.
They don't answer or send email. What they do during that time is reflect on the current state of their work and whether they have any questions that need to be answered before they can get through the rest of the day. They have a brief meeting. They have a brief meeting that takes place from 11 to 11:15, a standing meeting. Nobody sits down, and then they go on with their day. And it is one of the calmest places I've ever worked in my life.
I bet.
So that's their policy. Their policy is we're going to make sure that you've been there long enough that if you have stuff that came in from clients, you've got it. If you have emergency stuff, you've got it. But everybody, CEO all the way down, spends an hour reflecting about their work every single day.
And by the way, do you remember when Agile hit the world of tech? And the opposite of that, a component of that would happen, but it was like a freaking disaster. At least I was working with a company, and they did the 15-minute stand-up every day. And like this was supposed to be this magical thing where everybody would just report on what they're doing and roadblocks, and then how can you help? It was just like everybody just, nothing really changed. Oh, same old thing. Oh, blah, blah, blah. Like nothing. It was like the waste of 15 minutes every single day because it lacked what you just described, that critical thinking beforehand. Like what should I really bring up at the 15-minute stand-up? So yeah, I love that. That's a great, great policy.
And maybe they had nothing to bring up, but at least they'd been contemplative about their work.
Exactly.
And they were internally focused. So you couldn't go next door and knock on somebody else's door. This was like a timeout for the whole company. Maybe like they'd all been bad at breakfast, Come in, but it was just such a cool place to just slide into for a while.
If people would adopt that, like if people would adopt that idea of like seriously sitting down and thinking through even 30 minutes of where you're at, what are you doing? Where are you going to get? Are you being realistic about even what you're trying to accomplish by the end of the day?
But it has to be,
it can be transformative,
right?
Yeah.
But 30 minutes would have been, wow, 30 minutes. How many of us, like at the end of a workday, never had 30 minutes to think about anything?
Exactly.
Because we've been fast thinking all day, right?
Exactly.
Bing, bing, bing.
I love that.
Yeah. I'm a time tracker. Like I have literally been tracking my time for 25 years. So that when I get to the end of the day, I'm not wondering what I did all day long. Okay. And I'm fanatic about it. The team knows I'm fanatic about it. Now with artificial intelligence, the ability to work with that data that I've captured is even more powerful to me. So I love the idea of being able to, but you got to give your people space to do that. You got to say, hey, I want you to spend some time thinking about your work in a way that you're really trying to improve their performance for them. Like I would hate to go through the day knowing I'm really supposed to be done with this and I'm not going to be done with it and I haven't communicated it and I really should have. And if I'd have thought about this yesterday, I could have got ahead of it. Like the whole time somebody's thinking like that, they're not being productive at all. Is there anything in stakeholder whispering that helps with that? Like when you're in the ditch already, like we didn't whisper this trash at all. Here we are. It's a dumpster fire. How does stakeholder whispering address when you hadn't done it and now you're coming in to do it? Let's end it on this one. Let's end it on this one. Yeah.
Yeah. Bill, what have you got for those of us who are in the ditch already?
That's right.
I do like that phrasing. I don't talk about that. I have not. That's not in the book or the course.
That's your next book.
Yeah, it's a great question. In the end, it's no different than anything else, I guess. It's like, okay, I'm already in the ditch. I got to go to my stakeholder and say, hey, I'm in the ditch. Can I have more time? Is there more time? What is it? What is the stakeholder going to say when we ask them for more time? Hey, actually, I think the stakeholder is going to lose their brains. But here's how we might solve it. Here are the 3 ideas. And so, I guess it's an extension of all the same ideas, but there is something to that I haven't thought through.
Yeah. Okay. I'm interested. I think if you just start doing it, just go ahead and accept you maybe not stakeholder whispering in the way that you should be.
Yeah.
And that, okay, no time like the present.
Yeah.
Just get started. But I think you have to, if I'm being really honest, I think you have to begin with yourself before you can take it to others. So for myself and my team, I'm starting with me and trying to like calibrate myself. And then I look forward because the team has access to you. So there's no way we won't get this right. Because
know where you
if we
live.
struggle, we could just call you up, Bill, and you can like whisper us all the way through to the positive Lucky Charms, gold at the end of the rainbow.
Yeah, and by the way, like to the question about when you're in the ditch, in the end, it's still always, 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 always about the stakeholder. So, like, if the ditch is I'm going to be late on this project, I'm going to be a day late. Okay. It's not, oh my God, I'm freaking out, I'm going to be a day late. Oh my God, my boss is going to yell at me, I'm going to be a day late. It's the client has an event next week and this thing needed to be ready for the event. Okay, now what? When you do the stakeholder whispering in that context, it's almost like it's a new project and we got hard to do this project, it needs to be done by next week. Whether you're in the ditch already or not, it's still stakeholder whispering because you're still, how can I serve this client the best? And in that moment, you're behind what you thought you were going to do, behind what you planned to do and agreed to do, but you can still say, okay, how can I serve the client the best? What do they need from me? I know I'm not going to give them what they originally said they needed, but what do they need now? Well, what I could do is I could have this piece done in time for Monday, and this other piece I can have done by Tuesday. Is that going to work for you, client? Probably is, because I was in that meeting last week and I heard them say that the thing for Monday is really this part. So like you come with solutions. So it actually is still the same thing. It's just it's not losing your mind, so you can actually think critically. You'll use for paranoia, but always with the stakeholder in mind.
I'm just having this mental image of, we're building a car body for the client. At the last minute, we decided that it would look better if we built it with cardboard. Is that okay with you? Right? It's like once you start spinning out, there's like, no, the cardboard was not a good idea. Why? Oh,
right.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Well, we could have metal, but
we know you're supposed to do your test drive,
right? Because there's no trust and no communication. Yeah. We'll give you what we have done. Wow, really?
Yeah.
That wasn't what we needed.
Yeah, it's going to make your stakeholder whispering harder. That's for sure.
Yeah, going forward. Yeah, well, fewer stakeholders.
Yeah, well, that's funny, but that is like something to avoid. I would say that's what we want to try to avoid. Right. I don't know. I would always say, every situation is different. There's not a one fix for all things. But I would say I haven't met a leader yet that did not appreciate coming to them and giving them an honest assessment of this is where we're at. And we want to try to avoid being in the ditch by giving those honest assessments all the way through a process, right? So the stakeholder communication, if it's being frequent and, you should avoid most of those situations. But if you find yourself in one, I think a good call is to just say, okay, here's where we're at.
If you've been transparent all along, right?
Yeah.
I mean, regular updates, we're 20 hours away. We're 15 hours away. And those are honest. And then suddenly we're pretty close, but we're in the ditch. It's like, well, they've been talking to us all along. Let's see what we can do to help.
That's right. Yes.
Yeah.
So much easier for people to ghost. Don't do that. That is the opposite of stakeholder whispering.
Yeah.
Right. That's like, no, that's a big, big no. Y'all, this has been great. I really enjoyed this conversation. I feel like I used it for an hour of my own stakeholder therapy. Thanks. I have such love for my team. I just want to be a good leader for them. Right.
It's funny that you say that because, it is like therapy. The process and the technique that I teach, the Socratic dialogue, is therapy. So there's a whole chapter in here all about that. So
and might be a great title for the next volume. Stakeholder therapy.
There you go.
Stakeholder therapy.
Blow it up out of the chapter. It's like boom.
Yeah. Awesome. All right, guys. So I will see you all next month. I hope you have a great rest of your day, great rest of the month. We have a lot coming out. We have some leadership summit takeaways. We have some data fundamentals, unpacked artificial intelligence takeaways, just lots of good things coming. And then we'll be talking about boot camps and all of that, but we'll save that for next month. I can't wait to be with y'all again.
Me either. Thanks, Robin.
Me too.
Thanks,
all right, everybody. Happy stakeholder whispering. Thanks, Bill, for the book.
Bye.
Bye.